Hey, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you. So, I have become very fond of math as it applies to everyday business skills over time, and I thought this was an interesting opportunity to share how I learned about it and why it is important to me. So, without further ado, let's go on to the next slide. All right, let's pretend your Uncle Ed, let's call him Jack today, owns a barbershop. Okay, and I have three employees. All right, Jane, Robert, and Sean. So if you follow along here, I'm saying Joe owns Jack's barbershop and sells haircuts and shaving equipment. My employees are named Jane, Robert, and Sean. This shop is open 6 days a week, and each day my employees cut 8 haircuts. They only have time to give 8 people haircuts because they're really good. But he also only charges $10. Okay, because he wants to be busy all the time. So my question to you, Aiden, is how many haircuts can I give out or sell a week with 3 employees? You might say, okay, Jane does 8 haircuts, Robert does 8 haircuts, and Sean does 8 haircuts. Well, that's 8 times 3 times how many days? 6. So 8 times 3 times 6. I mean, I'm not good at that kind of math. 8 times 3 times 6. Maybe I'm lucky to get to 24 times 6. 24 times 6, I have no idea. Anyway, so that's the whole purpose of doing math and doing, business, calculations, so we can be confident at solving these problems. So if you look at figure 1 closely when you get a chance, I try to show you how to manually estimate how many haircuts I can do in a week. So I look first at my employee named Jane. Jane does 8 on Sunday. She gets to 16 on Tuesday. She takes Monday off. Weekends are fairly busy. So Tuesday is her second day. She's got 16 done at the end of the day. I look over to the end of the week there on Saturday, and she's done 48. 48 haircuts in 1 week. Okay. So what I did is I said, okay, one employee does 48. Well, how many does two employees do per week? All right. So I have to manually estimate. I go over, I go over in my head how to count from the end of the week for Jane. Jane ended on Saturday on, 48 haircuts. Okay. So the first solution I said manually, I'm gonna continue counting starting on Monday for the next guy. His name is Sean. So Sean does 49. By the end of Sunday, he's on the 55th haircut. So let's try to figure out how many haircuts he completes by the end of, the week, and then we'll know how many haircuts we did with just Sean and Jane, 2 of the 3 employees. So I said, counting down that Tuesday column, I can see that he's already done 59 and he's on Tuesday. So he's not done with Tuesday because he can do 8. So let's see what happens by the end of Tuesday. It looks like he's completed, whatever numbers you see there. Now, the end of the day on Tuesday, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, around 62. All right, let's move down the line. Actually, let's replace the previous slide with this one because I think I was only doing 7 per day. I a lot see the trouble with doing things manually. You can kind of easily make mistakes. So by the end of the day on Wednesday, he did 72. By the end of the day on Friday, he was over there at 88. And then, you know, um, and then, he was 96 by the end of the week. All right. So looking at this slide, so we know that Jack's barbershop is finishing 96 haircuts with 2 employees. Those were the ones that we just saw, Jane and Sean. So now we can estimate how many haircuts are done after adding one more employee, right? And that other employee is named Robert, we said, and we have to do it manually. But we can tell that 96 haircuts times $10 is already $960 in 1 week. If you do your math, it's about 4,000 a month, right? It's not too bad, right? So, um, so what I wanted to say is a quick sidebar here is, 96 haircuts are done by 2 employees, right? And if you multiply it times 10 for $10 per haircut, you add a 0 to 96, and what I'm getting is $960. Okay, that was just a sidebar. Now let's keep going down the road here. So if I wanted to continue estimating, manually, I would have to go row by row and just count them manually. But that's the hard way. The easier way, using algebra, will allow me to estimate the sum of haircuts for 3 employees, and I'm going to show you how. So we know one employee named Jane completed 48 and 2 employees completed 96. In algebra, 1 times person Jane is 48, or 1x, or just x equals 48, and 2 times Jane, which is really Jane and Sean, is 2x. So if x is 48, then 2x is 96. As we saw, we counted them out. In fact, all I did to the x was go 2 times x, and all I did to the 48 was 2 times 48. So whatever I do on the left side, I do to the right. So if I multiply x times 2 to get 2 of x's, then I'm multiplying 48 times 2 to get 96. And that's not easy math. You might have to write it down. 48 times 2 is the same as saying 48 plus 48. That's how we spend our times in the business world oftentimes as a cost accountant. That's how I spend a lot of my life, doing other things, not just estimating haircuts, right? But we'll talk about those in the future, and those are considered more like engineering, system engineering questions. All right, so again, we're trying to estimate 3 people, right? Jane was my first, Sean was the second, and now we're trying to estimate how many are we going to do with 3 employees. So we said if x is 48 and 2x is 96, 3x then is equal to 3 times 48. 48 plus 48 plus 48 is 144. So I say, see how 96, we see it's 2 times, it's 2x, and x is 48. Adding 48, which is equal to x plus 2x, which is 96, gives us 3x, which is 48 plus 96. You can just go up there and say 48 is x and 96 is 2x, so 3x is 48 plus 96. And that's how we got our total, 144. All right, take your time and look at this slide when you have time. I will send the slides separately so you can look at it without the narration and feeling a little bit rushed. But again, if you look at the top row, I'm saying I need to figure out 3x. On the second row, I'm saying I already know if x is 48, and x is really a number of haircuts of one employee named Jane. Well, 2 of them, one is Jane and one is Sean, is 48 times 2. 3 would be 48 times 3. And 3 times 48 is the same as saying 48 plus 48 plus 48. All right, moving right along. Here I was just trying to tell you, if we know it's 144 and we're trying to figure out how much money 3 employees made, well, we just figured it out. That's 1,440 because it's 144 times 10. Adding a 10 is 1,440. If you want to know how much that is a month, well, it's roughly 6,000 a month. It's going to be about $75,000 a year. Yes, haircuts are good business. You probably already know that. Let's move along. So what I wanted to add is using these examples of the importance of learning about algebra and so on. We're also intuitively, or how shall I say, alternatively learning about a multiplication table. And at your age, you should have a lot of them memorized, but most people tend to just need reason to reinforce it and remember. So it's important for you to feel like you're able to understand multiplication tables, not just memorize them. But you may want to try that. So here we said Jane was doing 8 haircuts on her first day. On the second day, she had done another 8, and we manually estimated that 16. What I show here is 8 times 2 is 16. 8 times 2 is also 8 plus 8. So if you look at the bottom of the Tuesday column, I see 16. That's 2 days. 2 days times 8 is 16. 2 days times 8 is also saying 8 plus 8. 3 times 8 is 24. So at the end of Wednesday, which is the third day of the week that she works Sunday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. 24 is what I got at the bottom. That's at the end of 3 days. So 3 3 times 8, which is 8 plus 8 plus 8, gave me 24. And that's 8 times 3. 8 times 4 is 32. So this is one way to look at your multiplication table. You may want to figure out what she's completed by Friday, which is 8 times 5. You should have that memorized. Again, using a multiplication table, I can see how many haircuts Jane does in 10 days because I know she does again, this is a little off. 46 haircuts in 6 days. So I'm going to come back and fix that for you. But you get the picture. I'll come back and edit that for you. So yeah, this is a little screwed, but let's see if we can work through it in narration together. So using multiplication table for Jane, I can see how many haircuts Jane does in 10 days. We said she does 8 in 1 day, so 8 times 10 is 80. It was a little easier than what I showed here, and I'm terribly sorry for that. I'm going to go back and fix it for you. Merry Christmas.